Sunday the 8th, and I've decided I'm going to start keeping a dear diary because it might help me to keep track of which day of the week it is, because they're quite samey, as we know. And I want to keep record of some of the chats I've been having because I've had some quite interesting ones. I had one from my neighbour. Now that is interesting because never really seen him before. He's been an absent person, always in the air, flying around, big job, never here, never. He's started hanging out a lot for the last 8 weeks. In fact, he's been doing the garden. He's been doing some home improvements. I've heard him rapping on the wall. And he's taught his kids how to cycle. I thought it was a bit of a life skill. And I think at the age of 12, I knew how to cycle. Well, I knew how to cycle at the age of 6, I think. Anyway, he's been doing these things that ought to have been done a long while ago. And his wife obviously wasn't inclined to do it. So there have been some big changes. And it's been interesting watching it. And they're all looking pretty happy about it. And had a chat on the doorstep the other day. And that was a bit of an eye-opener because it turns out that he lost his job 2 weeks into the COVID epidemic. Not great timing, you might think. But it also happened that he managed to secure another one. And I asked him, so that means you're going to be back up in the air again? We won't be seeing much of you? Oh, no, he said, no, I like it at home. My boss is in New York and he says he doesn't care where I work from. So no, I'm here now. This is where I'm going to be because I like going running at 6 in the morning. Up to Sloane Square, that's nice. And I like going cycling in the evening with my kids. So no, I'm here. And I also really like gardening. So I'm here. And I thought, well, that's a bit of a plus for everyone, particularly the family and for him, of course, in terms of his lifestyle. So on I went and spent some time with a young mum. Now that was interesting. Her children went back to school last week. And that was an interesting conversation because I asked, well, that must mean you're getting a lot more work done, and that's good, isn't it? Well, the answer was a bit of a surprise. It was, well, first it was all children, and then very suddenly it was no children at all. And my work's kind of expanded to fill the gap. So I don't think I'm doing any more. I think I'm just expanding what I needed to do into the remaining time and missing my kids a bit. So that was interesting. So I thought, okay, right, time for me to have some exercise. So I do a little bit of hide and seek, a little bit of catching grandma. That wasn't going to happen because, of course, we're not allowed to touch anyone. So I thought, let's have a bit of exercise. So drove to a very nice park, and I bumped into a group of 6 people in the car park. And what were they doing? Well, they were doing what you all do in car parks. They were having a party in the car park, because 2 of them were celebrating having been married for 51 years that day. They didn't remember the day before that it was their 51st wedding anniversary. So they're all standing there laughing and talking, and I'd known them very well. And they were talking about how they had celebrated 26 years ago, and the party that they had. And now this was very interesting. They had it at Derry and Tom's, which is just at the bottom of Kensington High Street. It was on the roof garden where they had ducks and they had flamingos. And the big story attached to the party was that they had a German friend who was a huge friend of the husband, best man. And he was also a criminal lawyer. And he had a bit to drink. And he stood up and made a completely impromptu speech. This was not intended. There was a whole load of other people who were supposed to be giving speeches, but certainly not him. And once he got into his stride, he wouldn't shut up and sit down. And this was a problem because they also had, together with the ducks, a lot of flamingos on the roof garden, which were very decorative, but real and live. And the timing was that they had to put the flamingos away into their special flamingo house before they started the fireworks, because flamingos and fireworks don't go together, not very well. And the fireworks are going to be outside, otherwise it would have been a bit hairy. But he wouldn't sit down. So in the end, they just took away his script, and he looked a bit surprised and startled, and they just said, sit down, quite loudly in German, and he did it. And the party went on. But I thought that was a really fascinating story. And I'd forgotten about the roof garden at Derry and Tom's. We'd even had a party there ourselves, our own company. It had a big party there about 27 years ago. Anyway, so that was nice. And I thought, well, that's great, but I still haven't had my walk. So I love you and leave you. I must go and have a walk. And no, I won't have a glass, but thank you. So on I went. And I came across someone who I don't know very well, but she was looking a bit sad. And I said hi to her, and she said, oh, hi, I'm just going home now. It was looking a bit cloudy. And I said, she said, well, actually, I'm feeling a bit miserable. I think I will just want to go home, feeling a bit tearful. And I said, well, don't do that. Sit down with me. I've just had my coffee, just bought my takeaway coffee. It'd be nice to have you just sit with me while I have it. Will you? So she sat down beside me on a stone bench that no one can move because it's too heavy. And she started to talk about why she was sad. And basically, 8 of her grandchildren had just come down to see her from, 150 miles away. She hadn't seen them for 3 months, and they'd just gone away. And she was thinking, when am I going to be seeing you again? And she had no date in the diary. And she was just terribly sad because she'd just seen them and loved them and had to say goodbye to them. And so I told her to tell me all about them. And she told me all about them, about her son, about her daughters, about all her family. And then it started to rain. So we put our umbrellas up without even breaking conversation. And we just sat with our umbrellas in the rain and went on chatting. And that was really nice. We were there together for about an hour and a half. I finished the coffee, finished all that. But I had met her 3-4 times before, always at parties. And we've had very nice conversations, but they were cocktail party conversations. And it just struck me that I'd had 3 really meaningful conversations, one with the young woman with the children, one with my friends in the car park, another one with the neighbour who had become unemployed and had now decided to change his whole way of living, and then the last one with the grandmother who had really opened up and talked to me about her life and about all the things that were troubling her. On reflection, what stayed with me is that none of those conversations was inconsequential. All of them have meaning for all those people involved. And I think that's a bit special. See you soon. Bye.